Hello guys, this is the 50th episode of Fenn Recommends, so I decided to celebrate it as a 50th episode. I thought I would cover all the Phantasm movies, sorry about that sticker, all 5 movies. It's been a while actually since I've done like a big reviews like a TV show or a franchise, and I decided it's time I do one again. I might have covered the movie and the franchise in my top 60 favorite movies of all time. I forgot if it was in the top 60 or not, but I can go more into it, and in all honesty, there's so much to talk about this, and I figured, why not? So, what we'll do is I'm just going to go through each movie, kind of brief thoughts on it, and then at the end I'll summarize the franchise as a whole. Alright, the first one's the best one, of course, like pretty much all horror franchises for the most part. It was released in 1979. It's rated R. It's an hour 28 long, and it was released on DVD in 1999. It has a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb with about 27,000-ish user votes. It has 72% on Metacritic with 10 critics. It stars A. Michael Baldwin from Phantasm movies and Bill Thornberry from Secrets of... I'm sorry, I did quotations. It's a TV show, a TV show that didn't last long. It has high numbers, but yeah. It was directed by Dan Coscarelli, who did Bubba Hotep, which is another movie I might cover in the future. It has 73% on Rotten Tomatoes with 44 critics and 67% by audiences, with about 1,200 audience people-ish. And the critics' consensus, keep in mind, this is on the remastered version of Phantasm, the remastered version of the first one. But it's probably going to be about the same. Phantasm Remastered adds visual clarity to the first installment in one of the horror's most enduring and sorry, ENDEAL. God damn it! Sometimes my writing is just awful. I've said it before, but but it's, let's see here, Phantasm. I'm just going to do a quick look here. So I get the pronouncing right. Enduring and endearingly idiosyncratic franchises. It's available to stream on Shudder. And it's available to rent and buy on Fandango and Vudu. Now, quick thoughts. This movie's awesome. It's very trippy. The special effects are awesome. Sets are great. Acting's good. I'm gonna go over them as a whole at the end. Let's move on to number 2. 2 is Phantasm 2. On the DVD thing, it's the title, the Phantasm 2: The Ball is Back, because this was released in... It's weird. The DVD thing has the first one for 78. My notes had it for 79, so there's some confusion there. Phantasm 2 was released in 1988, so about 10 years after the first one. It's rated R. It's an hour 37 long. It was released on DVD in 2009. It stars James LeGros from Drugstore Cowboy and Reggie Bannister from the first Phantasm movie. He was in that one too. James LeGros takes over for A. Michael Baldwin of the first movie, and there's some stuff behind this movie that I'll get to after I go through all the movies, to go through the whole kind of history of it overall. So I'll go through that after all this. Has 6.5 on IMDb, 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb with about 11,000-ish votes. Has 42% on Metacritic, a little lower with about 9 critics. It's directed by the same guy, Don Cazzaccarelli. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has 38% with 16 critics, and 56% by audiences with about 400-ish audience people. It's not available for stream, but it's available to rent and buy on Vudu, PlayStation Store, Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, and iTunes. Out of all the Phantasm movies, this is probably the second best one after the first one. It's kind of different a little bit. Everything's still good, but there's some issues with the story that I'll go through all that after I go through the last three here. Alright, the third one is Phantasm 3 Lord of the Dead. This was released in 1994, so 6 years after 2. It's rated R. It has an hour 31. It's an hour 31 long. It was released on DVD in 1994. Has 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb out of 10 with about 7,100-ish audience people. No Metacritic votes, no Metacritic numbers there for this one. Stars Reggie Bannister, who was of course in the first Phantasm, and A. Michael Baldwin returns in this one, and he'll be in 4 and 5 playing the same character that James LeGros played in the 2, and I'll get to the reasons why, the weirdness of that later. It's directed by the same guy, Don Kazarkelli, and on Rotten Tomatoes has 40% by critics and 10 critics and 40% by audience, about 200 audience people. It's available to stream on Shudder, and it's available to rent and buy on Vudu and iTunes. Third one, it's okay. Out of all of them, I think this one's the most lighthearted one, but that's not saying much, in all honesty. Yeah, that's kind of really it there. I'll go more into it after I get through 4 and 5 here. Number 4 is Phantasm 4 Oblivion. This one was released in 1998. It's rated R. It's an hour and a half long, hour 30. It's released on DVD in 2000. It has a 5.1 out of 10 with about 5,700-ish audience people. No votes for Metacritic. It stars A. Michael Baldwin. He comes back again in this one, and Reggie Bannister, of course. It's directed by the same guy, Don Kazarkelli. It has 25% on Rotten Tomatoes with 8 critics and 39% by audience with about 200-ish audience people. It's available to stream on Shudder, and it's available to rent and buy on Fandango. This one isn't really that gory. It's there. You don't see a lot of people die in this one. This one's more trippy. It kind of goes back to the first movie where it takes more trippiness, because the third movie wasn't really that trippy. Same thing with 2. This one kind of brings back the trippy elements, trippy atmosphere-ishness of it. And then, I'll get more about that later. And I will talk about the last one, Phantasm Ravager. Now, 4 was released in 1998. This was released in 2016. So, about 18 years after the fourth one. This one's rated R. It's an hour 25 long. It was released on DVD 2016. It has 5.1 out of 10 on IMDb with about 3,700 audience people and 48% on Metacritic with about 8 critics. It stars A. Michael Baldwin and Reggie Bannister. They still return. And it's directed by David Hartman. The original director of the first 4 does not come back. He does stay on as a producer. He's still involved, but he did not direct this one. And David Hartman's known for... he actually directed the Transformers Prime animated series, which is actually a pretty highly ranked series, actually. And the movie has 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, about 13 critics, and 20% by audiences, with only 37 audience people, actually. Now, the movie is available to stream on Hoopla and Shudder. It's available to rent and buy on Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, Fandango, Vudu, and PlayStation Store. Now, alright, let's talk about these movies, just straight through. First movie, it's pretty much a flawless movie. Story-wise, it's very trippy, but it's reasonably easy to follow. There's a lot of trippiness in it, though. There's a great twist at the end. Acting is great. The kid actor in it, A. Michael Baldwin, he's great in this movie, actually. He's very good. The tall man, the bad guy, he is so awesome. He's the bad guy throughout the 5 movies. He's great. See, direction's great, story's great, atmosphere is awesome, the score is fantastic. It's one of the best horror movie scores ever. It's almost up there with the Halloween score, actually. And then, it's a pretty awesome movie. I recommend checking it out. Now, do you need to see the sequels to see the first one? Not really. Two out of all the Phantasm films are independent films except for the second one. The second one's a studio film, and that's why, because Michael Baldwin wanted to, all the rest of the cast pretty much return, except for him, because they wanted a different guy playing him, a guy with a bit more name appeal than Michael Baldwin, because he was the main character. And they had to do it in order to make the movie go. And everyone was unhappy with it. I mean, they didn't hate the guy who played him, but they hated having to leave him alone for the second one. So after that, everyone's least favorite movie is this one. Now, the guy who played him is pretty good. In fact, he's actually a very good actor, and he does a good job in this one. Everything's great in this one. It's slightly more comedic, but not by much. I can tell, this one and 3 kind of go off on the Evil Dead vibe, kind of horror comedy kind of deal. This one has a little horror comedy, but it's not as funny. There's some trippy elements to it. Oh, the special effects are amazing. Cool 80s horror effects. Overall, it's a good movie, but I think the problem is really the story. The story jumps around a bit too much at the beginning and never really settles down. And for a little while, it seems a little aimless until the plot starts getting going. So it's kind of, it could have used a bit more focus. I think some of the behind the scenes stuff kind of made it a little tough to focus. The score is fantastic though. Hearing it again on the sequel is very good. So it's a pretty good movie. The story suffers a little, and recasting him for this one, even though the guy who plays him is very good, it's kind of a shame that they couldn't keep everyone for all the films, but oh well. 3, like I said, is the most lighthearted of the 5. It uses a lot of special effects. However, the rest of the special effects, there's a kid in this one. I always love it when they have kids in horror movies. It is a bit funnier, this movie, like I said. Acting's still solid. Michael Baldwin returns, and I have to say, in 3 and 4, he's still a decent actor, but there's something about him. I don't know if it's a direction or if it's just, there's something a little off about his performances in 3 and 4. Now, when he comes back in 5, he's a full-grown adult, and he's actually awesome. He acts awesomely in that one. In the first movie, he's a great kid actor, but for some reason, during that teenage young adult stage, there was something off. I don't know. I'll have to rewatch them. Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's the way the movies were made. But yeah. But yeah, 3's pretty awesome. We get more into like what the bad guy, the tall man's doing, and each movie reveals a little bit about him. Just to say, now, there's not much to say else about it. You kind of expect the same thing from the first 2. 3, like I said, is a bit more lighthearted. There's a bit more use of horror characters. More characters get introduced. And yeah, 4 is weird. 4 is not very gore driven. I actually don't see that many bad guys in this. It's pretty weird. It actually goes into the backstory of the tall man a bit. In my opinion, they could have done more with it, but they do enough to kind of give it an interesting look into it. There is a lot of trippiness. This movie is probably the most visually trippy one since 1. Because in 2 and 3, they scaled it back quite a bit, really. 2, they definitely did. 3, they had a little bit more. 4, it really goes back into it, like, a lot. Like, a lot of cool atmospheric moments in 4, but not a lot of gore, from what I remembered. And not a lot of bad guys getting, like, of bad monster zombie people getting killed or whatever. It was just pretty. It was more a story, character driven kind of horror movie. Oh, and I will say this: the guy, one of the characters from the first movie, he comes back in the rest of them after 2. 2 he was in through flashbacks, but the rest of them he comes back as something a bit different. I won't get into it because I'll give away spoilers. But yeah. Now 5. The 5, a lot of hardcore fans have a problem with 5. Now 5 is kind of weird. Out of all the Phantasm movies, even the first one is without a doubt the most trippiest movie by far. To the point where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I have a theory on it. There was some issues making the movie because the guy who played the tall man, at this point, he was like a cajillion years old or whatever, and I think he was getting sick, and everyone knew that he was about to pass away, so everyone there was pressure to make this the good last one, but I don't know if remember if there was a reason or not, but the guy who directed the first 4, he decided not to direct this one, just produce it, and the other guy directed it, and that's a bit disappointing that this is supposed to be the last movie. I feel like you should have directed it, because 4 left off on a big moment, and 5 was supposed to be concluded, and I don't know if 5 really concluded it or not. A lot happens in 5. I will say, out of all of them, I say 5 probably has the best acting since the first one. Second one, the acting was okay. 3 and 4, 3 kind of got a bit campy acting in a lot of ways. 4, the acting in 4, was solid, but like I said, Michael Baldwin. 3 and 4, there was something a little off about his performance. I don't know if it was direction or the script or something, but yeah, but 5, he's pretty polished in this one. They're all pretty polished. There's the biggest issue. One, it's a story. It's not really clear what's going on, what's happening. I mean, you can kind of scrape by. I mean, you know what the main character is trying to do. I mean, the guy who plays Reggie Bannister, he kind of becomes more and more of the main character as the series goes. And by this one, he's pretty much the main character, really, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, it's pretty trippy, this movie, the way it's trying to, there's a lot of, like, in my opinion, everyone can feel free to disagree. But there's a lot of, I feel like, and I think it's in the Symphos, I think the Reggie character, he's jumping through, like, realities, maybe? But that's my guess. That's the issue. And I think there was a lot of reshoots, and there was a lot of, in it, so I think there was some issues there. And yeah, and there's another big thing. Unfortunately, they do not use a lot of practical effects, if any at all. A lot of it's CGI. Now, granted, there are a few moments where the CGI is kind of campy, kind of fun, but the practical effects are needed in something like in the Phantasm movies, and they were gone. The score's good, the score's fine, but it definitely feels like a direct-to-DVD movie. Now, at times it has some. Don't get me wrong, there's some brilliant moments in this movie, really. Especially towards the end. But as a final movie to the Phantasm franchise, I think they could have done better, in all honesty. It gets the job done, but I think after all that, I think they could have done a bit better. The way it ends is okay. I can get behind it, but I think they could have done a bit better job. Out of all of them, I say if you just watch the first one and don't watch the rest, I think you'd be fine. I think there's a lot of great moments in 2, 3, and 4, though. If you miss out on those, I feel like you'd be missing out if you don't watch those. 5, I think after you watch 4, you're going to want to watch 5. 5 is so trippy and so weird that you have to see it to believe it. And that's the thing, it's not super gory, though. I mean, there's some gore moments, but really the goriest, the first 1, 2, 3 are really the gorier ones. 4 is a little less gory, and 5 is not really gory at all, really. Um, there is a post-credits scene in 5, though. That's pretty awesome. I have to say that even though there's some problems in 5, especially with the story is the biggest problem in 5. The special effects, it sucks that they relied on CGI, but I can get, and not even good CGI really, but I can get past that the story was polished, and it really wasn't. It could have been better, but it's doable. I think it's all in all, I think this is a great horror collection for anyone looking for a horror movie, good horror movie franchise, or especially like a very underrated horror movie franchise. I think they all have their moments, especially the earlier ones. I think 5 misses in terms of being a final movie, misses the mark on some key areas, but I think overall it's worth a watch. But yeah, I recommend looking for this. Now, when I bought this was like $30 at like, I don't know, Walmart or whatever, but no, actually, I think I got this at a FYE. I think it was cheaper. Now, this DVD pack's available everywhere. You can probably find it at FYE, maybe Walmart, actually. I think I saw it during Halloween season. I saw quite a bit of those. I think you can find, like, I know they re-released the first Phantasm movie as Phantasm Remastered, so if you just wanted to check out the first one, you could. But I recommend just getting the whole franchise, in all honesty. In terms of people who aren't really horror movie fans, there's nothing in it that's going to make you want to watch, except for trippier stuff. It's very trippy and a liar, so if you're looking for something a bit more trippy horror movie, you're probably going to like this fine. I did hear that they were going to try to do a new Phantasm movie franchise, which I would be very interested in seeing, because I think with the technology we have now and the filmmaking, like I actually wouldn't mind seeing people behind Black Mirror doing this. I think they would do an excellent job of doing something like Phantasm, even though that's not really their forte. They don't do horror, they just do kind of scary sci-fi stuff. They could, or something Black Mirror-like, I think. So, if they were going to remake it, I think Black Mirror is the closest they could, kind of the closest similarity they could make it with nowadays. But yeah, in all of them, acting's pretty solid for the most part. It kind of dips a touch with 3 and 4, but that's not by a lot, really. Direction's pretty consistent. The last one, 5, is a touch off, but it's fine. The score in all 5 movies is fantastic. I love the score. That theme music is awesome. The special effects are great in all the movies except 5. 5, the CGI, while at times could be kind of interesting, isn't really that. You should have done practical effects. I'm sorry, but you should have. And special effects. The story, since the same guy directed all 4 movies, the storylines have been relatively consistent, although slightly varied in qualities and maybe a few consistencies. I mean, when you have a trippy horror franchise like Phantasm, there's gonna be some plot holes or something, you know? And if you watch the movies, you'll understand. And yeah, that's kind of the best way to describe it. I heard this movie get compared a lot with Nightmare on Elm Street, with trippiness-wise, and I can agree. It's kind of trippy like Nightmare on Elm Street, but the way it's trippy is different than Nightmare on Elm Street, though. Though the results could be seen as a bit similar. But yeah, that's really what I have to say about it. 1's masterpiece. 2 is a solid second place. 3, I say the quality gets lower. 1's the best. 2's second best. The recasting is a touch off, and the story isn't perfect, but it's definitely the next best one because everything else is up to par, really. Three's good. It's a bit more lighthearted. It's not as trippy. Acting, there's a slight dip in it because it is a bit more campy. They rely on more kind of B-movie actors, so it might throw some people off a little bit. Four, four is fourth, really because it really feels like an independent movie because you don't see a lot of people in it, just the main characters really. It's not really that gory, and it's more trippy atmosphere. And it's at 4. It's not higher than 3 because there's not really any gore effects in it. And while the Phantasm movies are known for trippy atmosphere, they're also known to be pretty gory. And I kind of miss that, in all honesty. They could have done more with that. And 5 is probably 5th. Not because it's like the worst movie ever. It has a lot of great moments in it. It's not really super gory because a lot of gore CGI'd in, really. But it's very most trippy, and I think it's probably the best acted since the first one, in all honesty. 2 has some good acting in it too, but the recasting it has some good acting in it too, but it's a bit more, a slight lighter tone, not by much, but it kind of makes things a bit different. And some of the really, really background characters, I guess, could have been a touch better, But yeah, five's 5th because of, reasons I just mentioned. But overall, I recommend this whole franchise. I'm going to wrap things up because I've been talking for quite a while on this. But with all these movies, you have to. And yeah, Phantasm, 5-movie DVD collection. I recommend this. I recommend the whole franchise. I recommend checking out. And yeah, that was the 50th episode. I'm gonna keep continuing doing movie reviews like this in the future. Once I get to 100, that'd be interesting. What I'm gonna do at 100, but yeah, these are just gonna keep on going, and yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate the views, and I'm gonna keep doing more of these. And 50th episodes, it's pretty awesome. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.